love, poison, pain, and joy inside my DNA. I got hustle, though ambition flow inside my DNA.
All right, peace, greetings, everyone. If you've been with me since the beginning of my podcast, you know this space always began with unraveling my stories. You know, stories of survival, silence, and self worth, and those truths still live in me. They always will. But you know, life has chapters. You know, I went from talking about you know, surviving a narcissist to co-parenting with the narcissist. And then I went on to talk about, you know, my Medusa series. Um, and just when I thought I was writing one thing, DNA handed me a new plot twist. My father found after 41 years of wondering, and now we're writing something new together. So this pivot, you know, from my Medusa series to now conversations with my father, it's not an ending, and it's actually an expansion. The rawness still remains, the truth telling still remains, but now you get to witness what happens when two people, me and my father, we get to write a new chapter together. So our full story, you know, like the details of, you know, basically where he's been, we're gonna put that in our book. You know, we'll put that out in due time, you know, in our own time. But for now, I invite you just to listen, you know, laugh with us, learn with us, and heal with us in real time. So this is our new chapter, and welcome to it. Alrighty. All right. Welcome everyone. This is Gumbo for the Soul, and we have a special guest. We're taking our series in a different direction now. This is called Conversations with My Father. Legacy found and history reclaimed. So obviously, the guy that you see is my father. So welcome to Gumbo for the Soul. Welcome
Yes,
in.
yes.
All right.
I'm glad to be here,
All right.
Charity.
All right. So for 41 years, I didn't know my father. And when I finally found him, he was sleeping where our ancestors once stood. But he wasn't just any man, he was a historian, a man preserving slave dwellings across the country so that the pain and power of our past would not be forgotten. While he was preserving history, I was surviving it, searching for a father, a family, and a legacy that I never got to name until now. This is not a story about DNA, it's a story about restoration, and this is where it begins. All right. Welcome to the very first episode of Conversations with My Father. This is a podcast where we are healing, talking about history and legacy, and all three of these collide in real time. I'm your host, Charity Lorraine Berrier Muhammad. I'm an author, mother, veteran, and daughter in restoration. After 41 years of questions, silence, and searching, I finally found my biological father through DNA, and what we uncovered together has been nothing short of divine alignment. My father is a historian. That still feels funny to say. My father is a historian, a speaker, also a veteran, and he's the founder of the Slave Dwelling Project, a national effort to preserve slave dwellings and ensure the voices of the enslaved are never erased from American history. He has literally been sleeping in the spaces where our ancestors once endured so that the world never forgets. And now we're having the conversations neither of us ever expected. Conversations about DNA, memory, loss, legacy, and everything else in between. So today's episode is called Sleeping with the Ancestors, Waking to the Truth, because while he was preserving spaces, I was trying to fill a space in my spirit. So join us as we talk about how history and healing don't just meet in textbooks or timelines, they meet in moments like this. Let's begin. All right, so you have literally, well, first of all, how does it feel? How does it feel just to be here at this point?
It feels great. A place that 3 weeks ago I wouldn't thought I'd be right now at this very moment.
Right.
But a lot has gone on within the 3 weeks since meeting you.
All right, there you go. There you go. How do I feel? It's hard to put how I feel into words. Uh, I just say it's like a roller coaster ride of emotions, but it's actually, you know, all part of my healing journey. So um, I feel good in a good way.
Yeah.
All right. So now,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So yeah, yep. So do I. It's a place I've never been before. It's a place that I don't run away from. It's what the future holds, the potential that it has, what I have seen, um, ways that I have wanted it to speculate, and I think a lot of what we have talked about together is coming to fruition. Um, so I'm looking forward to the rest.
All right. All right. You act like you've been here before. So that's all good. Now, this is a serious question now. Okay. You have literally walked through history, one dwelling at a time. How did that work begin for you? And what made you feel called to preserve these spaces?
I think the ancestors,
Mm,
what the effort is all about, sleeping in slave dwellings, finding these slave dwellings wherever they are in the US and sleeping in them. My intent was to stay within the state of South Carolina and find those slave dwellings because my education was based on what I learned in the state of South Carolina. That education was inadequate because that education taught me that my enslaved ancestors were happy to be enslaved. And it also taught me that the people who enslaved them were benevolent people. Well, none of that was true. And in this effort with the slave dwelling project, by simply just sleeping in them, we can bring attention to those structures. And when we bring attention to the structures, then we can bring attention to the people who dwelled in those places.
mm. All right. Yeah. And I must say that I have been learning a lot. And I do agree with what you said about the educational part, about what you weren't taught. Um, Even a few generations later, I wasn't taught that either. They didn't really, put like the human aspect on slavery. And they did try to, pretty it up and paint a pretty picture about it. And like I know in a previous conversation we had, I think I mentioned that they tried to put slaves and indentured servants like in the same category. And I knew that could not be possible, because just based on the fact that I read a lot when I was growing up. So even with a textbook that we had, it may have like 30 chapters in it, but we never ever finished the 30 chapters. A lot of times, during the school year, but I would always read ahead. So I finished the textbook, even if everybody else didn't. And then I also read, a lot of other books too, because we didn't have, internet and all that stuff. Back then, all I had was, libraries and encyclopedias and dictionaries and the card catalog, to look up what else I wanted to know. But from everything that I had read, I was like, it's like it's something missing. It's like it's stuff
Yeah.
that y'all are not telling us.
Yeah.
So
Well, my reading in at that age that you just went through in school was limited to the World Book Encyclopedia that my mom
mm-hmm,
ordered, it's probably spending her last dime to make
mm-hmm,
sure they were in the house. That was all Google.
yeah,
I like to pull these things out randomly and just read and absorb all that stuff. That was my travel. Um, but now, of course, we've got all this. It
yes,
it makes it that much easier. And um, just just hanging out with you for the last few weeks and you showing me the capabilities of all
mhm,
that it can do and using it for good, not evil,
right.
and making me more comfortable with it. But that's another story.
Well, to add to what you said about the encyclopedia, we're about to do a this or that. We're about to do a this or that. But before that, when you said that was your way of traveling, when you read the encyclopedia, that was also what I used to do. That was the way I traveled. Like I went to Paris, I went to Spain, I went to all these different places in the books that I was reading. And so it's just funny that you said that was the way that you traveled. And then also, I used to read the encyclopedia in the dictionary, like you said. Now in our free time, we pull out our phone, and we get on our phone. Or, when you take a trip to a certain place in your house to do your personal business, you know how we used to have to read. We didn't have a phone like we do now. We used to have to take
Right.
something in there with us, and that's what I used to take in there with me. I would take an encyclopedia or a dictionary. So it is funny that you said that. So I just had to kind of put that in there. All right. Did you want to say anything else about that?
No, I'm good.
Okay. So this is a quick this or that. So this or that. We can just you wanna do it the traditional way.
Or we can, yeah, let's do it that. Let's do that.
Um, I'm talking about. All right. So history books are oral stories. This or that. History books are oral stories. And now we can change it because I know before we said it may be a both. So it can be a this or a that, but because we're doing our own thing, we can have a it can be this or that, or it could be both.
Oh, can be both.
It can be
Well,
both.
I'm going to go with what I wrote and go with that thought. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
All right.
You see mine?
You said both, yes.
Uh-huh.
Um, but oral story. Let me defend that. I say oral story because of the way that I'm accustomed to learning. I'd rather um, be told a story. I'd rather see something because if you're being told a story, so you're looking at somebody that's telling you that story. That's a visual, right? Right there. And there's a stereotype about Black folks that if you wanna keep them ignorant, put it in a book.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so there's that. So although, there is the technology that could eliminate or reduce some of that ignorance or that lack of wanting to read, because you can talk to the phone and they'll answer the question that you ask them. So
Hey
that's
Siri.
convenience.
Uh-huh.
But still got to ask them the right questions.
Right.
And that's where the challenge is. So oral stories, because it ties, it's our history. That's the way we have been getting history, because there was this point in our history where educating us was illegal. And that's what the slave dwelling project is all about, that part of our history and giving our enslaved ancestors their voices that they didn't have in that period in our time. And they did it orally. So I have to defend that. So there.
Yeah. And I was also gonna ask, I'm gonna tell mine, but before I tell mine, um the other part of what you do, the living history part of what you do, wouldn't that be considered oral stories?
Yes, with the
Okay.
visuals.
Hmm.
Certainly, there's certainly the visuals attached to that because we demonstrate things. We demonstrate brick making and cooking and basket making and blacksmithing and storytelling. So it's all a part of that oral and visual, um, for that matter. Yes.
Well, I say both because, like I told you, um, all I had, that was like the only, I guess, like happy place, safe place, whatever you want to call it. That was like my way to get away, was reading. So that's why I say both history books and oral stories, um, because I grew up reading a lot of books, and it's crazy too, actually, that reading was like a favorite subject of mine. And then, of course, reading ties right into history. And then I became an educator, and my first teaching job was a literacy teacher. And that is what I taught. I taught it was reading, slash English slash social studies. And social studies is pretty much was history. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, it's weird. And then you turn out to be a historian. But yeah, I say both because I love to read, but then I also like to listen to oral stories too. And like you said, with little people, like when you're teaching little people, they don't know how to read all the time. So, they're basically focused on you and whatever you're telling them, and you always have to find a way, to make it fun and interesting. So you end up telling them a lot of stuff versus, reading it to them. So that's why I
Yeah.
say both.
And not only that, it's come full circle
Yeah.
because we're in a time now where education is being minimized. We have just gone through this phase where the Department of Education has been eliminated. There is no more funding for Sesame Street and PBS and
PBS, yeah,
ETE.
yeah,
And that's taken us into a place where if you are supportive of not having those things, then you are supporting of people not being able to think critically.
right.
And
Mhm.
that's very important in life.
Yes. And you have to know how to think critically. That's one of the things I made sure I taught my students, and I'm definitely teaching my boys about how to think critically because a lot of times you can give them something to do and they don't know how to do it because they've never been taught how to, break something down into a step by step, process. They're waiting on you. Like if you say here, if I put just say I put a Lunchable on the desk, and we're talking about a third grader put a Lunchable on the desk. It's like they don't know what to do with it. Okay, open it. So they open it and then they stop right there. I'm like, okay, you gotta open this part now. You gotta open the little pack. Say it's a piece of Lunchable. You gotta you gotta take it out, put it on something else. Take the thing, open it. Like you have to tell them things step by step because they're waiting on you to just tell them. I'm like, no, you have to figure stuff out on your own. You gotta learn how to think critically because if this way doesn't work, there's always another way type thing. But yeah, that is lacking and that's missing nowadays. But I'm definitely doing my best to make sure I did it with my students, and I'm definitely trying to do my due diligence when it comes to those two that I have. That I want them
Yeah,
to know how to think. Oh, the other thing too, if you don't know how to think critically, then you're easily influenced. And we talked about influence too. You have to know how to think critically so you won't be easily influenced in the wrong direction.
right. At least have your own thoughts on
Yeah.
what influences you. I mean,
Yes.
there are
Yeah.
some good things out there,
Mhm.
but you got to have that sense of discernment of
Yes,
what that
discernment.
good
That's it.
is.
That's it. Discernment. Yeah, and also to I guess to tie into that too, the oral story part of it. Um, it has a lot to do with like we're talking about, but how you raise them too, like their childhood and like parenting. Because if you have that parenting style where it's more like a dictatorship, then you're literally I've had this discussion with several people with the reason why I parent differently. Because if I don't parent differently, it's like I'm literally raising them to be like sheep, basically. I'm raising them to only do what they're told and not to even have a thought about what they're told, but just do it because I said it, or do what you're told, basically. And like literally I'm sending them out there, to be slaughtered, basically, because if they don't have their own thought process and their own thoughts about anything, they're going to be easily led this way or that way. But I'll say we may think it's okay. Well, you better just listen to me, and only listen to me, and yada yada yada. But I'm like, no, I give them a right, to have a voice, to be able to, voice their opinion, to be able to express themselves, and they don't always have to agree with me. And that's not considered being disrespectful, and it's not considered talking back because if they cannot question me and have like a discussion with me, then they're just gonna bow down when they get out there, in the real world. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, that's another discussion for another topic. But I felt like that was important to add in here too. Because if they don't have a voice of their own or a mind of their own, then that's what you said. That's where that discernment. There is no discernment because they've been told what to do like their whole entire life. So you can't just expect them when they turn 18. Oh, poof! Now use your brain. but I haven't used my brain in 18 years. But now you just want me to, okay, use your brain now. Go out there, get. But yeah. So that was a interesting discussion about history books and oral stories. Took us
Yes.
a lot of different places. All right, so we're gonna go in another direction now. So as someone who is also a veteran and an educator, how does your past shape the way you see legacy and memory now?
Well, my past comes from humble beginnings, and uh, it's documented. My past is documented, and those humble beginnings are is where I was yesterday. I came back through my hometown of Kingstree, South Carolina, and it reminded me of my days being educated in South Carolina. And it was that place in Kingstree, South Carolina, where I was lied to, as
Mm,
in, my enslaved ancestors were happy, the enslavers were benevolent. That was instilled in me in Kingstree, South Carolina. It was those things there that I had to expel or just disprove for me to establish the pride that I have in my enslaved ancestors, in my ancestors, period, all of them. Um, so it bring that kind of brought back bad memories. But the fact that what I'm doing right now to tell their stories is a good thing. It's a
mm,
beautiful thing. So, I feel privileged. I feel honored that I could, do what I do and continue to do what I do. I'm more proud of the fact that when we go to these sites, it's more than just sleeping at these sites. In fact, I got more sleepovers behind me than I have ahead of me. It's the conversations that we now have around the campfires, the conversations we have about 30 to 35 people talking to people who don't look and think like them. They're meeting these people for the first time at this gathering at this historic site. Black folks, white folks, old folks, young folks, talking about slavery, white privilege, uh, white privilege and white supremacy, Confederate monuments and weddings on plantations and DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, critical race theory, uh, improper ideology. We talk about all these things at these historic sites. So now we're connecting dots. We're letting the public know that we were a part of the story too, and our stories should be told. Now, how's this thing going to look next year in 2026? We're going to be commemorating the 250th anniversary of not being ruled by a king, our
mm.
independence from England. And when we commemorate this period in our history, we got to make sure that we're the ones telling our element of that story. Because if we leave it to others to tell that element of that story, they're going to tell the good parts, the parts that keeps them in that comfortable place. Um, well, we were there too, and
Yep.
we had lives too. So we want to tell that story. We want to incorporate that into this national celebration that we're going to have. And I'm hoping that there's someone from the Native American, the indigenous population, that can do the same for their stories. They were there too.
Right.
They were being colonized. We were being enslaved in that period in our history. But we were also doing great things during that period in our history. We want to tell all that. So um, I think it's all coming together. It's all coming full circle.
Mhm. Well, I do I guess like and appreciate the fact that you have all that knowledge in between your ears. And it's like all the everything that I want my boys, to learn from being homeschooled that I know they wouldn't learn if they were educated in the public school system like I was. Um, they can learn a lot from you now. You see, so I do appreciate that fact because it's like I said, you're like a walking encyclopedia. So I do appreciate that. About our new relationship is that literally because I'm laying the foundation for them. And I know I told you that it's certain things, I don't let them eat, right? Certain things I don't feed them because it's like I know if they don't have that taste in their mouth, then it's not a habit that they'll have to break. But I also know that I can put a taste in their mouth, right? So I can put like a taste for learning, for craving knowledge, for being curious, for wanting to know more about things. And I know that I can cultivate that, right? And it's like now I can just say, hey, you have a question. Not only can you Google it, like they can ask you if they wanted to. See what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I think that's pretty cool. Like they can just ask you stuff, and that it's like the foundation that has already been laid. It's like you can just like just build on top of it. Like you don't have to, like you said, you had to dispel all that stuff you were taught from like public school. Like we don't have to worry about that when it comes to them because their brains haven't been like muddled with all that inaccurate stuff, that stuff that's not true about history. Like it's
Yeah.
like basically ripe, and fertile ground where we can plant, all those seeds, that they, yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
And not only that, there's a digital footprint.
Yes,
If
yeah,
if they're visual learners,
mm-hmm,
then that's out there.
yeah,
And but digital footprint, that's a whole nother subject. We can
yes, it is. Uh-huh.
come back to that.
All right, so we have another this or that. All right, you ready?